Taboo. Why cannot choose love? In every generation, fairy tales are rewritten, not with ink but with expectation, tradition, and the silent weight of crowns that glitter far heavier than they appear, and nowhere is this more evident than in the life unfolding before the eyes of the world. That of a young woman born not simply into privilege, but into destiny, a destiny tied to an ancient institution in whose monarchy has survived exile, dictatorship, restoration, scandal, and reinvention. To understand why love, that most human and spontaneous of emotions, becomes a complicated, even forbidden subject for her, we must look beyond romance and into the architecture of monarchy itself, because for the heir to a throne, the heart is never entirely private, never entirely free, and certainly never entirely her own, and from the moment Léonor entered the world as the firstborn daughter of Ande, her life ceased to belong solely to her. It became an emblem, a symbol of continuity in a constitutional monarchy that balances ceremony with democracy, tradition with modernity, and personal desire with public duty, and in that balance lies the unspoken rule that love must never threaten stability, must never compromise neutrality, must never ignite controversy, because a future queen is not merely a woman who will marry. She is an institution preparing to embody the unity of a nation composed of diverse regions, languages, political tensions, and histories, from Castile to Catalonia, from Andalusia to the proud lands of, whose title she carries as princess. And when we speak of taboo, we do not mean a written prohibition carved into stone tablets hidden in palace vaults. We mean a cultural reality so powerful that it shapes behavior without needing to be declared, a reality in which every friendship is scrutinized, every public appearance analyzed, every rumored crush magnified into a constitutional question, because the heir to the throne does not date like other teenagers, does not fall recklessly in love without consequence, does not introduce a partner without triggering debates about class, politics, religion, nationality, and symbolism, and while modern Europe celebrates royal love stories that cross boundaries and defy old conventions, the Spanish crown carries a particularly delicate legacy, shaped by the tumultuous 20th century and the monarchy's restoration after years of absence, meaning that its survival has depended not on fairy tale romance but on prudence, discipline, and an almost surgical avoidance of scandal. Thus, when observers ask why Léonor cannot simply choose whom she loves, they are really asking why the institution she represents cannot afford uncertainty, and the answer lies in the fact that a constitutional monarch reigns but does not rule, stands above politics yet is constantly surrounded by it, and must therefore remain beyond reproach, beyond faction, beyond anything that could divide the citizenry, and romantic choice, in a hyperconnected age where social media dissects lineage and ideology in seconds, carries the potential to fracture carefully maintained neutrality. Imagine, for instance, the implications if her chosen partner were publicly aligned with a political movement, or associated with controversial business interests, or even simply from a background that stirred old resentments between regions. Suddenly, what should be a private affection becomes a matter of state conversation, headlines, parliamentary commentary, and international speculation, and for a monarchy that has worked tirelessly to project transparency, youthfulness, and ethical integrity, that is a risk calculated with utmost caution. Yet the taboo is not purely political, it is also psychological, because from childhood Léonor has been trained not merely in languages, military protocol, constitutional law, and public speaking, but in restraint, in the art of carrying herself with composure under relentless observation, in understanding that her smile at an awards ceremony is interpreted as reassurance, that her posture during the national anthem signals continuity, that her education choices reflect the global orientation of the crown. And within such an upbringing, the notion of spontaneous love collides with an ingrained sense of responsibility, creating an internal conflict few her age could fully comprehend. She studies abroad, she attends official engagements, she participates in military training, each step choreographed to prepare her for a reign decades in the making. And while her peers explore identity through trial and error, heartbreak and rediscovery, she must weigh every association against an invisible ledger of consequence, knowing that the wrong photograph, the wrong rumor, the wrong late-night outing could eclipse years of carefully built trust between palace and people. This is not because her parents do not wish her happiness, nor because the monarchy demands coldness, but because history whispers caution. Spain's royal house has faced intense scrutiny before, and the lesson absorbed by the current generation is that survival depends on moral authority as much as constitutional legitimacy, meaning that the future queen must appear measured, thoughtful, above fleeting impulse. Moreover, the very concept of marrying for love, so celebrated today, is itself relatively modern in royal history, and though arranged marriages have faded, strategic compatibility has not entirely disappeared, it has merely evolved into a quieter expectation that any partner must enhance rather than overshadow, must support rather than compete, must understand that their life will also cease to be private, that their career may be reshaped, their opinions moderated, their past excavated, and not every romance can withstand that transformation. Thus the taboo extends beyond Léonor, it encompasses whoever might stand beside her, a reminder that loving a future queen is not simply loving a person but consenting to become part of a national symbol, to sacrifice anonymity forever, to accept that even family moments may unfold under camera lenses. And there is also the generational dimension, for she represents renewal, a young face of monarchy in a century skeptical of inherited privilege, and in such an environment, every choice she makes is amplified as proof either of relevance or of disconnect. So if she were to defy expectation dramatically, the narrative would not remain confined to gossip columns but expand into debates about whether monarchy itself remains compatible with contemporary values, a burden few young adults carry when choosing whom to hold hands with. Still, within this intricate web of duty and destiny, she remains human, a young woman likely to feel the same stirrings of affection, curiosity, and longing as anyone her age, and that is perhaps the most poignant aspect of the taboo. Not that she is forbidden from love, but that love must arrive in a form refined by scrutiny, patient enough to endure waiting, resilient enough to survive evaluation, and aligned enough to coexist with a crown. In quieter moments, beyond ceremonies and salutes, one can imagine her reflecting on stories of other heirs across Europe who navigated similar crossroads, learning that the path to both love and legitimacy requires timing as much as passion, and perhaps recognizing that while she cannot choose love impulsively, she is not entirely denied it. She is simply asked to choose it wisely, deliberately, in a way that harmonizes with a role that predates her by centuries and will outlive her by many more. So the word taboo may sound harsh, even dramatic, but in truth it describes a silent contract between individual and institution, a contract stating that the heart must consult history before it leaps, that romance must respect responsibility, that personal happiness must be braided carefully into national symbolism, and as the world watches her grow from princess to sovereign in waiting, the central question lingers not whether she will find love, but whether she will find a version of it strong enough to stand beside a throne without trembling, because for Princess Léonor, love is not a rebellion, not a fairy tale written in secret ink, but a chapter that must be drafted with the awareness that millions will read it, interpret it, and perhaps see in it the reflection of their country's future, and that is why, in the gilded corridors and sunlit courtyards of her world, love is never just love, it is legacy, it is symbolism, it is continuity, and until the day comes when she can unite heart and crown without risking the delicate equilibrium her family has worked so diligently to preserve, the unspoken rule remains: she may feel love freely, but she cannot choose it lightly.